Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overwatch League. I'm Mitch Leslie here with Matthew Morello, and our first weekend of, I guess, our qualifiers, or at least our sort of group stages here in the Countdown Cup. So far, fairly one-sided, at least for the North American region, Matt. Yesterday's matches were all 3-0s. It was quite clear to see that some teams were thriving in this kind of hero pool, and some were struggling somewhat.
Yeah, lots of blowouts.
But a first match today seems like at least it'll have a little bit more spice to it, as both of these teams have every reason to have, high expectations coming into this match.
Yes, we have both Paris and Toronto here to kick things off, and these are two teams that are on the rise. It's kind of rare to say that with some of the matches we've seen so far, where it looks like one team's trending way downwards, the other teams are starting to look good. Both these teams are going in the right direction. Toronto had a very good showing in the Summer Showdown, and we obviously know Paris are your champions.
Yeah, Toronto, of course, are getting victories against the Los Angeles Valiant and against the Atlanta Reign, both matchups in which people didn't really expect them to be so dominant in, but they went to that best of 5. They went 5 maps against Atlanta, and they showed a heck of a lot of depth. That was, of course, without hero pools being effect. So now this week, and next week, of course, May, Widowmaker, Orisa, and Ana are out of rotation. Now, for the Toronto Defiant, you might think that this could spell trouble for them, but honestly, they've been showing us a couple of really interesting compositions already, Matt. We're not just seeing standard Genji Tracer from them right now. Soon and Sparkle, who are 2 players for, Paris, who you'd think can play that comp quite easily, are actually playing a Sombra Doomfist kind of setup.
Yeah, you're back to Sombra Doom Dive, which we've seen in the past. And I think it's good that Paris experiments with this. They'll be able to pull out Genji with Sparkle and be able to make that work anytime. They need to figure out a way to incorporate him into the lineup in other ways. Doomfist is another one of his great heroes. And look, Doomfist in combination with Sombra, with like Winston in the mix, is always going to be strong. Doomfist with the one-shot kill potential, it's no other hero is like it in the game. So if you have a dominant Doomfist and you can play Sombra and Sombra's effective in the meta, this is a composition that'll always see some love.
Now, do you feel like this was especially because we saw a lot of teams play Reinhardt and Sigma? They still wanted to play double shield even without Orisa in the rotation, as we bring up our starting 6 for the Paris Eternal?
A little bit. I also think this is building towards the future for Paris, because you have to assume with how strong Genji is, there's going to be some type of balance that comes across with him in the near future, and you just don't know how that'll turn out, right?
Because everybody in bronze to gold is asking for it, I assume.
Yeah, Hexagrams is making new accounts for the Blizzard forums every day, going on about Genji.
I love the interview with him. He was quoted as saying, "I've been saying that Genji is
which he's always said it. I respect Hex for that. He has always hated Genji's presence in the game against him on the other team. He's never backed down from that.
All right, let's move across the aisle here as the Paris Eternal obviously looking very strong. Soon Sparkle will start up in the DPS roles here. The Toronto Defiant, Matt. There was a great stat that came out the other day. I don't know what it was. It was the Shore is like the most flexible player in the league. I think he's got like 9 different heroes that he has more than 5% of his overall playtime percentage of. So, really diverse hero pool from Shore, and we kind of got to see that, right? Especially in their match against the Washington Justice, which was one-sided. Toronto looked like they were continuing that trend of strength.
Yeah, as Shore comes in, he can play Sombra at a really high level. He can play some of the hit scan, whether it be a McCree, Ashe, Widowmaker, etc. This time you really only need his Ashe play. And then if you wanted it, he can also play Tracer. Maybe not the same level of logics, but it still gives you a ton of great play, but also flexibility.
Right, and of course he'll be paired up with Agilities here, who has been really comfortable, of course, as we've gone straight back to the Genji. Fun little story here, of course, is, Cruz, in 2019, I think, was the only Paris Eternal player that played every single map for the team. Now, because obviously he was a Lucio player and, and obviously had to be on that support role, but the guy's been around for so long and never really got to be brought up as part of the conversation, in the same way that like maybe someone like Moth would. But now on the Defiant, he is doing some serious work. And this is, we spent so much time talking about, these young guns are hungry for victory. That is not really what the Toronto Defiant are. This is a veteran players that have been striving for years to make their name. And they have a chance here in the Countdown Cup to do so.
Well, it's a different type of mentality. Like, the younger players want to make it to the big stage, right? Nevix has been on the bench, right, for most of his Overwatch League career. Like, this is his real great, starting experience. He played a little bit at the beginning for the Shock, but once I got Choi, he was on the bench all the time. Cruz, no, he was in and out of the lineup for the Paris Eternal this season. Now he gets a chance to shine. Agilities as well has been in and out of lineup. So I think it's a different look that they're a veteran team that really wants to prove themselves.
Nevix there, getting to his feet, trying to shake out some of the jibbies. And what? No, I think he's leaving the room. So I don't know how quickly we'll be into map right now. Maybe he's just adjusting his little backdrop. I do appreciate that. It's such a thin backdrop. You have to have it.
Nevix cares about his production value.
That's good, yeah. Whereas the Shorefall, I don't know what he's got in the background now. Hopefully it's anime posters. That would be on brand for him.
I saw Super last night, and he was trying to defend, I guess, the place that they play from. He doesn't like how the lighting looks on his hair.
Right.
And he was trying to show his stream how much better his hair actually looks.
Right.
So there are some players who care about their production value. Some just want to be a picture on the graphic.
Some of them just want to win. I tell you what, there was a lot of smack talk from Sparkle in the lobby now. You won't see that. But I mean, no one was spared the rod from Sparkle. So we'll see what the Paris Eternal want to bring. Whether, again, it is going to be that Sombra Doomfist combination we saw from them that would punish Toronto trying to play a double shield without the Orisa, i.e. Reinhardt getting punched into walls. Maybe Toronto gets forced to play something different, or they mirror. So far, it looks like it might be the latter, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, as Agilities does have a good Doomfist as well. You kind of think of Agilities' best heroes, Genji, Doomfist, Pharah. See, probably Surefour on the Sombra. Potentially the same here for Soon, so could be a mirror, but oh, well, no, looks like we're going to actually play the Symmetra this time, as Symmetra does get some love on this point.
Yeah, look, you can play around the Reinhardt shield, stay safe, charge your beam up, and start to laser people down, and that's exactly what Soon has been able to do here on the flank, already fully charged. What, 3 kills for him in that fight. The Toronto Defiant, we're not ready for the Symmetra to be such a force to be reckoned with.
Is anybody ever ready for Symmetra to be a force to be reckoned with? I don't think so.
Well, it's quite deceptive, right? Because Symmetra can catch you off guard in just how quickly she gets to that sort of threshold for max damage, because she just gets her charge off shield. So no one's taking damage. Your healers aren't having to cover for that damage. And all of a sudden she switches to a target when she's 100% charged up, and the
ramp up is so fast, and the amount of damage once you are ramped up is crazy. You'll have coalescence from both teams. It'll be Soon using his Symmetra barrier here. They're going to try and just push Toronto back.
Yeah, both Doomfists have gone down here, and the Eternal are the ones that really want to play aggressively. Toronto are able to build up some of these key ultimates, and that wall, interestingly enough, actually makes it really hard for Nevix to do too much. Obviously, with that Symmetra barrier in the way, he's trying to work through the corridor and gets 0 hypersphere value.
The barrier for Symmetra kind of synergizes well with Doomfist in a way, right? Because he can go in, he can melee through it. You're not really worried about shooting with Doomfist per se. It'll be Surefour uses the TP to go in here, and that'll be the Gravitic Flux with the answer from Hanbin.
Good sound barrier timing from Cruz keeps the Defiant bolstered against the fall damage they would have suffered. Ben Best getting knocked around a whole bunch, and you kind of just have to deal with it as Reinhardt right now. Hope the rest of your team can stand up in your stead. Surefour doubles down with a couple of quick kills there, and Paris Eternal try and open up the fight there with a Gravitic Flux, and now are at least able to force a barrier, and of course we saw Symmetra ult from Surefour.
So next fight you'll have Agilities with a Meteor Strike here. So maybe a Gravitic Flux with a Meteor Strike on the come down as TP gets Paris Eternal to the point rather quickly. Sparkle
likes to, obviously Doomfist likes this point. You can sort of break line of sight pretty comfortably while being fairly close to the enemy, getting easy wall punches. Nevix goes up there for a Gravitic Flux and doesn't find much, but Sparkle finds Surefour, and he wants a little bit more. Knocked to the ground, he is though, as the shatter comes through from Beast. He is charged in response though to the Paris Eternal. Should be able to clean this fight up pretty comfortably after a rather large Reinhardt shatter from Beast was a little bit late in the day.
Yeah, they just didn't have enough follow-up on through it. Karim will die here late. It's Toronto, they'll get another chance here for a fight. They're going to have to play for both their supports, so it'll happen with about probably 85% or so for the Paris Eternal. Which could potentially be like last fight territory for the Defiant, depending on how long it's going to take them to get there. Definitely, I mean, with this way, it is going to be the last fight, pretty much.
Benbest is going to be looking for a shatter again. Bear in mind, he's going to get... Oh, no! Soon, maybe he didn't intend to find that kill, but he'll claim that he did, and he'll take it to his grave. The Toronto Defiant never really got a chance to take part in that fight, Matt, losing their Symmetra so early. And hey, Shawfall could have had a barrier that could have made a difference in terms of setting the Doomfist up to find easy kills. Not to be the case, though. Round 1, going over to the Eternal.
Yeah, just that alternate fire Symmetra spam through the choke. Catches Surefour. Now that's really it after that. So interesting, both these teams seem like they really want to play the same exact thing. Agilities and Sparkle, both on Junkrat here. They probably want to counter each other with like a Doomfist, thinking that the other's going to play it. Junkrat, although a bit of a meme at times, is quite effective on this map. Just a lot of chokes to be able to spam with the grenades.
I mean, we saw that in the New York versus Chengdu Hunters match as well. It wasn't Nene playing Junkrat.
Well, we saw everything in that match.
That was awesome. Oh my. Yeah. All right, well, look at these shields, Matt. They are in trouble. I mean, Beast found himself kind of out of position there, and I think it might have been because he was knocked forward by Sparkle onto a trap.
Well, it's also just so much more shield pressure here for the Paris Eternal than Toronto, because they end up playing McCree with the Junkrat, where now you have Soon still on Symmetra, so being able to just beam down, you know, beast the barriers with the Symmetra plus the Junkrat damage, his barrier is going to be gone rather quickly.
Well, what are you hoping for if you're Shawfall here? What's the big... what's the justification, I guess, for McCree being the pick right now?
Well, you want to get control of, like, if you get control of the point and you get control of the choke, then you can start to make things happen with the McCree. But if you're not able to deal with any of these players in the front who have shields because they're just out damaging you in terms of the shield war game, there's not much value you're going to get out of it.
So Shawfall needs to find a way around.
They need to find the way to get him in, yeah. And they're trying to do that now. They're trying to wrap around this way, but this will be the Amp Matrix of the Junkrat, and now we're going to speed boost around over here.
I mean, they kind of forced that out, right? The Defiant have Lucio, both teams do, so they can reposition, but they lose their main tank again. And Matt, you brought this up earlier on. The shield pressure for Paris is just so much better. The Beast is always going to be at a deficit in these fights.
If you can create space for the McCree and get people to start spreading out and not make it a game where you're fighting in these close chokes, you can make McCree work. The issue is the shields are just down and you're down a tank before you're even able to get to the situation.
Sparkle with the Rip Tire. Gonna wait on this one here on the Defiant. Yeah, they're gonna back right on up. Sparkle, though, at least gets some information, although I don't think it's rocket science to figure that the Defiant don't want to be around for the explosion of the Rip Tire. So the Defiant's composition maybe looks better if they already have control of the point, because Shawfall has more options of where to stand, but right now they still need to get control of it before that McCree starts to shine. Agility took a lot of damage to the Rip Tire there. He tries to use the Shield of Beast briefly. Just need a Mortality Field to get rid of one fielder. Here comes the barrier from Soon, though. Gravitic Flux catches 3, but the sound barrier was there by Cruz. Great reaction time there from Mr. Pond. Shaken, not stirred. Fielder and FD got it down here in the Defiant. Break in and give Shawfall now a chance to show what McCree can do when he has space.
Yeah, this is what I was saw. As soon as they were able to get to the point and get everybody spread out and get space, they're able to take it. Surefour ends up picking up 2 kills towards the end there. So how do you play now, though, if you're Toronto? I don't think this is a composition they want to play brawly in the choke. I think they want to let the Paris come in a little bit and keep that space, keep that distance.
I mean, they want Sparkle to have to play away from shielding, I dare say. Look at this, though, in the front line. Benbest pressuring Beast down. Immortality Field had to be used awfully early in the fight. Shawfall still looking for those opportunities to make an impact. This McCree now he has a bit of space to work with, but the Eternal had taken all the real estate. Kareem knocked down. It's a fire strike, but Sparkle is removed by Nevitz, who's playing that off angle expertly. And Benbest is a little low, but behind him is Soon. He's charged up. Had to be a flashbang, but look at that. Benbest immediately comes to his rescue with that shielding. The Defiant have lost control of the point, though, now, and they're a little low on personnel. If they want to stay in this round, they have to retake real quick.
Yeah, it's a nice Symmetra barrier here from Soon. It's allowing him to just sit behind, put down some damage, but Nevic's back on the Wrecking Ball, able to get one.
Shawfall is able just to definitely get around the shield of Hanbin, flash, bang, and ban the hammer. Forced back by the remote mine there, but quickly the Toronto Defiant managed to retake control, and the Wrecking Ball for Nevix should be fun.
The way he said flash and then bang, I thought it was Bren. I thought I was casting with Bren for a second. The way he He does. He always calls it out like that. He screams flash, and then as soon as it goes off, he screams bang.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, fair enough. Yeah, not really trying to emulate Brent today. Maybe
tomorrow.
Maybe later on. Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Here's the Deadeye. Entirety of the Eternal Force right out of the way there, and there's still actually a couple extra moments bought. You can see the Fielder and FD got on the wrong side of the wall as they had to split to not get taken down. Here she comes. Riptire in. Nevix was there to do a bit of damage to it there.
He just eats it.
Gets rid of Sparkle. Adaptive Barrier only with one target. Still makes him durable enough to withstand it. Immortality Field went down while Agilities was in the air, so now he goes for a desperation. Riptire and Harvey gets a face full of vulcanized rubber. Now over the top comes Agilities, and Benzes just disintegrates. 90% for the Toronto Defiant here. This is some momentum now. They might be able to carry to a round win.
This would be a wild comeback for Toronto, because it really looked like Paris was going to just dominate this round and take it as Hanbin trying to get to the point on the Wrecking Ball. It gets flashed up by Surefour Fan. The Hammer not able to take him out, and this will be soon using the barrier, getting back onto the point, but big first pickoff.
Perfect from Nevix there as well, making it hard for Sparkle to get away safely. He's suspended in midair after the pile driver, and he's a sitting duck for Surefour. But Benbes pushes up, doesn't hit the shadow, but Beast Halo's taking a lot of pressure right now, trying to stay alive. There's some Metro turrets behind him, so he can't move back too far either. He eventually succumbed, and now Nevix doesn't have a lot to work with here. He has his support, so he can stay alive, and that may be all that's required. Soon returns here on the Tracer, and a pile driver knocks Cruz up into the air. No, it was actually just the Exo Boots to get some altitude. Soon wants to wrap around to the backside here, but Agilities is back on the Doomfist, and he's giving Benbes absolute hell. Soon almost finds the one clip and forces the Doomfist of Agilities away, but now Benbes is knocked up himself. Nevix wants to try and find a way into the backline, but both Wrecking Balls are causing havoc right now, and a sound barrier for Surefour means he can go a little bit more aggressive. Benbes tries to back away, but Beast has a shadow, never has a chance to use it though, as the Cold Essence cut through. Fielder switching over towards the Moira. It looks like that was a fortuitous decision now, as the Eternal have the numbers and a Pulse Bomb. Soon opts to recall though now, as Sparkle finally gets rid of the threat of Kareev on the Moira. Surefour eventually run down, and the Paris Eternal will clinch the map.
Ooh.
Very, very close on Control Center, but ultimately Lijiang Tower goes to the Eternal.
That is a wild ending there for the Paris Eternal to be able to bring it back. Hanbin able to get the minefield on the point. Soon comes back on Tracer. He's able to pick one up at that time. And then a sound barrier from FD guy. That really kind of puts them over the top. But Toronto, like I mentioned, once they got the McCree space, it started to work. It was just hard to do it. I still think this is going to be a very close series, though.
Yeah, I'm loving what we're seeing from both of these teams so far. Not a lick of Genji Tracer. Yes, anyway.
Yeah.
And Hanbin continuing to remind us exactly why he is a top flexed tank player. He comes out with 10 final blows for this. He leads the entirety of the Eternal. Paris looking like a well-oiled machine right now, but we're still hoping for a close series. Stick around. Map 2 is right around the corner.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. And by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch League. Myself and Matt Morello kind of hyped this match up a little bit here as we have two teams that are ostensibly on the rise and honestly have some history with each other. The first map was quite interesting. Lee Zhang Tower saw only really, Doofus play from both of these rosters. It was fun to watch, even the Junkrat inclusions there, and it was close. That's what we're excited about, and that's why we're excited about map 2 being Temple of Anubis. Yes,
and I don't think you can do some of these things on Temple of Anubis. I think you can play Doomfist potentially with Sombra. Genji probably a better option because of a lot of the verticality, like high ground you can get here on Anubis. And then what do you want to combo with it? Do you want to play Tracer? Do you want to play Ashe? I think this is where both these teams will kind of move away from what we've seen.
On defense.
Look, I mean, we've seen Junkrat on defense. It's valid.
But my Doofus rollouts, baby!
But we've seen Junkrat a lot of places where Junkrat doesn't make sense, right? In the past, we saw him on offense in Kings Row. We've seen him everywhere. So defense on Anubis, not unlikely, but you can definitely see him there, even when he's not really played that much. It's sometimes a pick. But I think you'll see teams go to Genji here. I think this is probably where you have to play Genji.
Can I just shout out Nevix? Mad respect for the way that he's wearing his headset just to preserve his hairstyle. I wish I could do that with this.
He's all about production value. One thing I've learned about Nevix today. It's all about the production value.
He's literally the only one on camera right now. The rest are like, nah, I'm not having it. Oh, dear. Well, we're going to be jumping into just a moment here to the Temple of Anubis, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, the Eternal are locked in, ready to go. No substitutions for either roster. And this is a map where maybe Tracer, like you kind of hinted at, gets a little bit less run because, well, there are platforms that she has difficulty accessing. The Defiant have played a lot of Anubis, man. A lot more than the Eternal have anyway. And they've had some very mixed results. However, they've had extra experience and they've had some time to really work on some of their compositions here. Now, I wonder, like, the Genji Ashe, if you sort of pointed out, if we see that here, Matt, because,
it makes the most sense.
Yep.
As, need a Genji to kind of control high ground. He's really good to kind of chase the enemy, Ashe, let's say. But you also have the ability to play Tracer, like, on the second point if you're the Paris Eternal, let's say, on their offense, where I think you'll see them come out with something like this, not necessarily Roadhog Wrecking Ball, but I think they'll kind of keep these damage dealers in place and then probably play the Reinhardt with Sigma.
Depending on how much the defending team's composition involves them actually having to keep this high ground platform, there is maybe an opportunity to make Wrecking Ball work here, but double shield. I mean, we know Toronto, whenever they've been able to, they do prefer to, play double shield. They cleave much more to that Orisa Sigma setup when they had that available. We know that Ben Best probably looks his best on Reinhardt, so not a shock to see these teams go this way. And Youch soon gets singed a little bit there, and he'll be back to spawn.
For a second there, I mean, you could have thought Spark.
Oh! Okay. All right, Spark talks so much trash, and Agilities was quite like a monk. Now he's starting to turn up when it counts.
Yeah, he's starting to play like Super.
Let's not go there. I mean, not everybody has that prodigal ability.
You see how aggressive he plays, and a lot of that was actually set up originally by a good dynamite from Surefour at the choke. It did a ton of damage to both damage dealers, and Agility is able to go in and finish them off. Exactly what you want your Genji to do, and he's doing a nice job as well, keeping Sparkle contained at the choke.
Okay, so the Eternal voluntarily split themselves up here. They're actually content to have Ben Best contest the point with Fielder so close by. He has Immortality Field available now. And the Defiant, where you might think, okay, they can collapse on either side of this setup. No, they're the ones that actually end up getting split in half. What an interesting setup here, because Matt, as we see the point captured by the Eternal, the Toronto Defiant looked like they were actually in a better spot, with both DPS players from Paris were actually kept outside at the front gate for a time.
They were, for a bit, and then Fielder got his Amp Matrix from the high ground, and he's able to do so much damage from there, especially, Hanbin throwing some spheres, they get down on the point, they start to contest. A really nice Immortality Field comes out from Fielder towards the end of that. It happened so quick, but he ends up keeping, I believe, Hanbin alive by the underpass, and it allows him to get that first point.
Agility's trying to get a bit of cleave from that first slash on towards the Immortality Field, and both of them are down right now. Unfortunately for him, he's not able to find any more kills with that one. And Bob has been removed, so the Defiant's early warning systems are now down. And oh, that Amp Matrix is going to get pushed through here by the Eternal. And Sparkle combines with Ben Best to get rid of the more, sticky parts of the Defiant's defense here. And I mean, if you finish the map now, the Eternal have a ridiculous time maker. That Amp Matrix pretty much seals the deal. The Defiant try to go for an Agility Dragon Blade map, but that overextends them.
Well, it's not even the Blade that hurts them. It's they stack Blade plus Bob to combat a rally, and then Paris just kind of backs out, and then Paris is like, all right, well, we're going to come in. We're going to have Blade, Bob, and the Gravitic Flux. And you know how good Sparkle is with his Blade. If there's no rally on the other side, there's no Immortality Field, and Amp Matrix there, he's going to get at least a kill or two. Gravitic Flux plus Bob, maybe one more kill. You have the point at that moment. So I think Paris did a really nice job holding on to those ults. As soon as they saw the Blade and the Bob come through, they held on to everything. They just had to use a rally to get those out. And it's a huge win there for Paris. And I mean, now with 4 minutes and 43 in the time bank, it's going to be difficult to beat.
So yesterday was interesting because despite the games being essentially one-sided, there were a lot of different compositions. So we could actually assess teams based on like who had the more optimal composition, who was using it better. In this match, these two teams appear to have really similar styles. So now we actually get to go a step deeper and have a look at the execution of them. Now, we might see some differences in composition now as the Eternal. I mean, a defensive Doomfist is honestly quite fascinating to see on this map. What is Sparkle trying to achieve here, and how does this give the Eternal maybe an edge?
Well, he can get really aggressive in the choke, especially onto some of these players that are going to like walk on through like really slow. There's no Lucio in the mix. Also in that close quarters area, right? Like, let's say the Toronto Defiant, they want to go left side here, try and push through. When you get to the Mega Health Pack, that Doomfist is devastating. There's so many close opportunities for knockups. Like look, he doesn't really put himself in harm's way there at all.
Yeah, never was he actually exposed to any of the poke damage.
And he can do the same thing here. Look as they start to move in towards the side room. He can do the same thing if he wants. He can launch himself in like a rocket.
The Defiant have to opt into fights in these choke points where they would otherwise be vulnerable. And Cruz, I mean, I don't know how he ended up in the air there, but Sparkle just finished the job.
But to finish him off, you have to push through that choke, and you're going to take so much poke damage from other angles, it'll be difficult to live.
And look at Sparkle using the chassis of what looks like a sort of an old Omnic in the corner there to make it really hard for Beast to hit him with the hammer. Beast has to push further out of this choke than he otherwise would feel safe doing just to try and pressure Sparkle. This is so interesting. This also means that the Eternal have to push up a little bit here, so they give Sparkle the space to do this kind of stuff, which has its own risks. But so far, what they hit, it looked okay. But it looks like Kareev goes for his own Amp Matrix and finds a kill.
Charge. Ben Best, who connects with both supports with that Shatter. And now they'll be able to push this out, as Paris should be able to hold on. And that's a huge fight win, Mitch. It's a Amp Matrix used early by Kareev. That's what allows them to push on through. But once that wears off, Ben Best lands a beautiful Shatter, takes out both supports.
I mean, it kind of feels like Paris did the only thing they could do, right? They lose the Doomfist to an Amp Matrix, so they just double down. They say, well, look, this is the best position we can protect point A from, so if we lose this spot, I mean, we may as well just go aggressive here and try and hold on to it.
It's also way easier to double down when you have 443 in the bank.
Yeah, that is true. Here comes the Gravitic Flux. Beast gone up high. Immortality Field has to get used early now. Does Agilities try and Blade to break the deadlock here, as he just try and keep his back line alive? He may not have a chance to do either. Ben Best gets the Fire Strike. The Bombs are battling on the point. Okay. I don't know who's going to come out on top in that one. Something tells me the first shot wins in that head-to-head, but Kareev has gone down and the Defiant are already cleaned up.
Nothing more exciting than two Bobs shooting at each other on the point.
Hey, listen, BattleBots can be fun. That was one of my favorite shows back in the day.
I never watched that.
No, but you have played at Mechagon Workshop, so you know the first bosses. That's the premise.
Essentially the same thing.
It's bots that battle each other. Yeah, it's a homage to BattleBots.
The Defiant have to win this fight. Shatter, Gravitic Flux, both support ults, Blade against just an Amp Matrix. You have to win this if you're Toronto.
Eyes on you, Agilities. Did they put soy milk in your latte this time or not? The Blade is here, but he's hit with the creation immediately and Heartbin. Oh, he's so dangerous. Doesn't matter what he's playing, Wrecking Ball or Sigma or Diva, who get the job done.
But there was nobody there to help Agilities, and he's going against 4 people with the blade.
Okay, well, we can discuss whose fault that maybe is later on.
And now they got nothing for Rally. They got nothing out of the blade.
They didn't force Immortality Field either, I don't think so. Nevix's Gravitic Clutch, even if he used it quickly, it wouldn't have really been that devastating. Still, Beast does have a shatter, so does he get value here? That's it. Immortality Field, Accretion follows it up, but Beast goes down, and he dies with Earth Shatter.
Here comes Bob again as well for Toronto. They know it's desperation mode, right? 28 seconds, they have to make something happen here, and they come in with both support ultimates, a blade, a shatter, and they're not able to get the point as things are falling apart for the Defiant here on offense.
And Sparkle has been loving life on this Doomfist match. 6 final blows. Hanbin again with 10. No deaths, by the way. Hanbin doing so much work. More damage than both of his DPSs, by the way. Looking like an absolute chat out there. Here's your Gravitic Flux, of course. Nevix is thrown down and didn't really have an Immortality Field because, well, Franklin 3 was elsewhere. He goes for an Air Matrix to try and get a kill of his own, and he does get 1. He gets 2, in fact. But where's the follow-up? Where's the rest of his team? Agilities gets whip shot before he can touch, and here comes a Wrecking Ball rolling on through. Beast now just has to try and stay alive as long as he can. And so far, he keeps getting the overtime trigger, but there's no help, no reinforcements. All the King's horses and men could not unseat the Eternal from point A. And now they go into halftime 2-0. And maybe, Matt, I was jinxing it by saying that we should expect closer matches today because that one was one-sided.
I think you will see this series like remain competitive. I think this is just a really bad showing on this map from the Toronto Defiant. I mean, they look good in map number 1. They were able to go toe-to-toe with the Paris Eternal really on both points, although the first one's a little bit more one-sided. But here on Anubis, it was a no contest. Paris was just dominant. I mean, 443 in the time bank on offense is an eternity, and then a full hold here on point A. Toronto really needs to come up with something after halftime.
Oh, man. And I've got the stats in front of me here. And obviously, it's a pretty one-sided map, so you can sort of say what you will about that.
Yeah.
The Temple of Anubis, it's actually the tank line of the Paris Eternal that's securing a lot of these final blows and doing a heck of a lot of damage. Benbest looks extremely comfortable with Orisa out of the hero pool right now. He loves that Reinhardt. The double shield composition looks extremely good for the Paris Eternal. Now, in fairness, I want to hear what everyone has to say at the break here because first map of the series, it looked like Toronto definitely had some opportunity. They played the same sort of comps as the Eternal. So we'll have to hear what they have to say at the game break now, Matt, as we will return after for map number 3 and see perhaps if Toronto have what it takes to hang the Eternal.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. Welcome to a game break presented by Pringles. Wavy, Zoe here, joined by Costa and Reinforce. And currently the Paris Eternal are up 2-0 against the Toronto Defiant. And quite frankly, this is looking like a rather one-sided affair. Don't want to sugarcoat it at all. Paris are just continue to look dominant. They are having fun with it. They're clearly on their comfort pick. Reinforce, anything you want to say about that first map?
Yeah, I mean, Paris Eternal, they came out as we expected and simply dominated on control map in general. The only real opportunity there seemed to be for Toronto Defiant was when Nevix flexed over to the Wrecking Ball in the final seconds of Control Center. And it actually sped things up a little bit. And it took Paris Eternal some time to adjust to that Wrecking Ball pick. But for the most part, it came down to Soon Symmetra, Sparkle's Doomfist, and it was the same thing on Control Center. It was just hard for the Toronto Defiant to deal with these very spam-heavy compositions that beat down the Reinhardt and the Sigma shield so quickly. And I think the Paris Eternal really proved that they are probably the best control team in the league. I've said it now like 3 times the past 2 days or something. But it is true, because they are so dominant and they have these wacky compositions they enjoy to play on Lijiang Tower. So I think it was a very impressive performance from the Paris Eternal.
I think we go on to map 2 and we really see the strategic difference though as well. Like Paris on their attack, even though we see Sparkle get Soon get picked off of the bat, where they get positioning, they get on the higher ground, smart, methodical first point attack, they then take the point, everything works as they want, they go on to the second point, they predict the Defiant's aggression, and then just get the second point. Is smart, clean gameplay is why they won the Summer Showdown. You see it here today. And then you look on the other hand, Toronto Defiant, they just keep walking in the same direction. They keep walking as 6, they're not creating a distraction. They're making it very easy for the Paris Eternal to counter what they're doing, and I think that's what the Defiant has been struggling with the most as of late, is that they're just not being innovative. They're just sort of playing the meta, and they're just hoping their mechanical skill can get them across the line.
Well, but can it get them across the line? I feel like so far they just kind of looked completely outmatched by the Paris Eternal.
Yeah.
Do you need to see strategical changes or, again, changes in the pace? Do you feel like they actually, sped it up a little bit at least?
I mean, they are playing the meta, sort of. So in that sense, they are giving themselves the best opportunity possible to actually win this game. But at the same time, I'm wondering, like, how crazy can you get with a Wrecking Ball, for example? We've seen players like Gator have real success on the Atlanta Rain, where he pulls it out and you throw the enemy team off guard a little bit. I mean, the Paris Eternal is a really good team, so it is an uphill battle for the Toronto Defiant. Maybe we expected it to be a little bit closer. Maybe we expected Surefour to come out with a Sombra, etc. It's harder to make work on Lijiang Tower, etc. But it's incredibly hard for the Toronto Defiant moving forward. I think you can take it many different ways in the second half, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, right now it just kind of looks like a strategic or playstyle mismatch, if you want. It is time for Crunch Time, presented by Pringles Wavy, and this time we're going to have a history lesson with Professor Larson. Please take it away.
Professor Larson. Well, I think we shouldn't brush over this fact, because this weekend we have seen Sparkle play a lot more Doomfist, and this is a tweet that I wanted to bring up from Avril, who commentated Korean Contenders this year, and he also made a bit of a surprise appearance as well on the Overwatch League not too long ago. And he basically stated after the Summer Showdown that, would you believe that Sparkle's best hero isn't even Genji? And this is quite a surprising statement at the time, because Sparkle obviously popped off super hard on the Genji in the Summer Showdown. But there is something to this, because going into the Overwatch League, Sparkle was known for his Doomfist. When he played on Element Mystic and they won the Gauntlet event in Korean Contenders, you can see for the stats themselves that, like, he is up there among the best Doomfist in the world. So when you're actually seeing the Paris Eternal play this Doomfist composition with him in the lineup, it is a bit surprising compared to some of the other teams, but they have the skill to back it up. So this is a pocket pick that you will have to expect moving forward if you weren't aware of Sparkle and what he brings to this table. Doomfist is certainly in his arsenal as a player for this team.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, sorry, I think Sparkle is someone that we didn't see a lot of great looks from on the May, and a lot of people were like, oh, is he going to make it? But he's such a talented player on so many different characters, and we're only just starting to scratch the surface of what he can do. And a lot of people said it was just a waiting game until Sparkle came into this Paris Eternal lineup, and now that he's here, you know, they're looking to be a dominant force. There aren't many teams that have been able to show that they can beat him. So I'm interested to see how far, you know, Sparkle and this team can go.
Absolutely. We're now heading to Havana. Costa, any last thoughts? Do you think there is any, if all chances for the Toronto Defiant to maybe find a crack in the armor of the Paris Eternal?
I was thinking about this just before I was having a look at it. This is a really hard map to be innovative. Like, I think the meta that we've been seeing thus far, like on Anubis as well, is going to be the one that we're expected to see. So I don't think there's much innovation from the Defiant, but I think they can just sort of tidy it up, try and make sure that they're playing to their own strengths and not playing Paris Eternal's game.
Well, let's see if they can get it done, or if the Paris Eternal are going to sweep this one away and take the W in the end. We're heading into a quick break, and then afterwards we are back with all the action with Mitch and Mr. X.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
think Shawfall tries to dispatch it instead, just decides to bypass it instead. Chasing down No Spite.
Qui mais les paris externales qui reviennent faire X avec un implacable. Est-ce qu'il sera contré? Il prend un kill sur Fury.
Damage in either man, not the primary fire. He'll get frozen all the time. Big shatter. Fire strike from Beast to follow.
Il va mettre un maximum de dégâts ennemis dans le dos de ses adversaires. Ils sont en train de le faire. Ils sont en train de le faire. L'Overtime qui arrive à bout. Les paris éternels qui l'emportent.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for sticking with us right now. In our first series of the day, it's the Paris Eternal that definitely seemed to have the edge over the Toronto Defiant map. But there is one more map, potentially, an opportunity for the Defiant to at least find a foothold in this series.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one, I think. Look, Paris was dominant on Anubis, but I like Toronto. They just get throwing so many ultimates after bad fights. Like fights you really didn't have a chance of winning, and it burned them on their defense on point B. And then when they had the ultimates in a huge advantage on Anubis, they weren't able to make any progress. So just some bad situations for Toronto, whether it be using ultimates, thinking one thing's going to happen, and Paris just playing it well, or just misplays in general.
Do you agree with sort of Custer's take that Havana is maybe a little bit hard to I guess come up with new strategies on right now, a little bit hard to improvise or innovate currently?
I would say so, yeah, just because it's so Havana, not like the other maps, it's so different from point to point. You have these long chokes at the first point, but then you can play right up at the spawn door, so who knows? And then you kind of, as you round the corner and go into the warehouse, then we start to get in close quarter type of brawly scenarios, and then we go right back to really long sight lines and an unforgiving choke at the end. So it's not like you can kind of play one composition the entire way through, because you can't, playing a Nash inside that warehouse would be tough. You can do it, it would be tough, especially if the other team plays aggressive and goes dive. So there's a lot of probably this is one of the maps where there's just a lot of confusion on what to play and how to go about it right now.
In the past, we've seen a ton of Sombra on this map in the right metas. A reasonable amount of Doomfist, plenty of sniper play, but Widowmaker is currently unavailable for selection, so you can forget about it. We did see Shawfall attempt to play some McCree earlier on Lijiang Tower, but as Johnny kind of pointed out, the Eternal are one of the best teams in the league right now when it comes to these control maps. Now, is there room for... I mean, I don't really see why the Eternal would want to opt to anything that looks like a dive composition. They look so good with double shield, or at least with Reinhardt. Unbin can honestly play whatever he wants for all I care, because he's just good at everything.
So you could play aggressive on defense. If you wanted to, if you're Toronto, you could play close up at the door and play brawly. But it looks like with the composition they have, they're going to try and play this a little bit further at range with Ashe and play. Soon may just go out and check, to be honest, on Sombra and then switch. Just see where they're going to be playing from and get an idea of what to go with.
Remember, it seems a long time ago now, but the Defiant tried to play aggressive on their defense on the Temple of Anubis, and it backfired and gave a gigantic 4.5-minute time bank to the Eternal in map number 2. They need to be careful if they're going to play a similar way here. Soon peeks out on the Sombra. Sparkle on the Doomfist though, and Sparkle's quite happy playing along this choke right now.
Doom here instead of Genji is interesting. But Doom also synergizes really well with Sombra. If they're going to play close, you get a hack, you get a punch. It's an easy kill and a follow-up. And you also have good synergy with Doomfist and Zarya, as Hanbin stays on the Zarya coming out of the spawn. You saw a bubble there on Sparkle as he started to push up. As Paris, they get a few kills early, they push Toronto back.
Right, so we saw a bit of Zarya being used in the APAC region. Primarily, it was actually mostly combined with Winston play, but we feel like it makes Sparkle, or at least inoculates him a little bit to what Shawfall can do to punish Doomfist with Ashe, right? Just makes it a little bit more robust, but it doesn't account for this. Shawfall, again, playing on his own, as he likes to do. Getting rid of a Moira like that is no mean feat, and yet it may not be enough. We'll have to see. Benbest pushes up. His shield is nice and healthy, but the tank in front of him is not, and that's just a finish up here as Sparkle jumps in on Nevix with the Meteor Strike.
Think about that. You get the first kill in the fight is Surefour taking out Fielder as he's about to pop Coalescence. So it's a huge advantage for Toronto. and they still don't come out on top, as now Paris has an EMP here towards the end to use, as this will knock Bob offline. A few players coming out get hit by it as well, and this will be Paris Eternal able to take this first checkpoint.
It's so evident to see that Toronto have some really talented individuals that are making plays for themselves, but when it comes to 6 of them to operate in concert, the Eternal always seem to be a step ahead, Matt.
It just seems like they I don't want to use the word understand. I think Toronto understands how to play the dive. I think Paris is just, you have Sparkle, who's just so dominant on these heroes like Doomfist, and Genji see the EMP goes off there. Then everybody's coming out split. There's not an opportunity for Toronto to get up onto the point.
And that's brutal. Bob gets placed so that he cannot contest the cart, and then he gets EMP'd. So, they couldn't even get value from the fact that he was stalling out, even if he wasn't able to shoot. This is a composition that the Eternal like on this map, and the Graviton Surge is used now. Sound barrier has to be applied, and it is not enough. That is demoralizing. When you say that Lucio Ultimate cruises makes it for this occasion, and it doesn't keep Agilities alive. 2-for-1 trade now, but Harbin's charged up and letting the fight. A charge Zaya is going to cause some headaches. Harbin reluctant to push too far forward right now, but I think he's identified there's not much of a threat to him currently.
No, there's no reason. He can block off that choke. He's doing so much damage to the players coming through. FD God can keep the payload moving. Now they can back out for just a quick second, because now they'll have everybody back.
Beast, I mean, he can't hang.
Nice
He's taking
finish,
too much damage right now. Agilities has to go for a blade here. Bear in mind, there is no fatigue, so no immortality field to have to deal with. Agilities, yeah, he gets rid of Fielder now. Wants to chase Harbin, which is a bit risky. Well, I mean, look, you had Coalescence and Blade in the fight. It's not as if you are overspending, I think, on a team fight win.
But you had just killed their Lucio up on the high ground, so there's not really a way they can engage fast on you. They kind of they would have just sat there and played that neutral game for a bit longer.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Teams who lost a bunch of team fights prior, how much harder is it for them to actually save ultimates when they're trying to win a fight?
It's way harder. You know you need to stop the bleeding, so to speak, so you have to throw in on it.
Well, here's an EMP. Beast Taylor with Kareev, by the one time I'm going to get flayed here using his full gamer tag. Kareev was EMP'd, so couldn't fade away, but doesn't look like he was really pressured down. The Eternal didn't look like they were in a great position to capitalize on an EMP. They're only on 2 players, though. Charged on the fielder. Beast has no concern about Harbin punishing.
But this is exactly why. Like I didn't really love, like how you mentioned, I didn't really love the use of that blade in the previous fight after they get that first pick off. But that allowed them to stop the bleeding, stabilize a little bit on defense, and now Paris comes in, use some ultimates, and Toronto's still able to win that fight. So now they're in a much better position.
And it seems as if the Defiant are just able to catch the Eternal before they set up. Keep an eye on Fielder's health bar here, because Shore4 has been targeting him constantly, trying to force the fade just by shooting at him, so that when Agilities comes to party, he will be able to access the Moira, and she won't be able to slip away. There's a hack soon. Gets rid of Beast's shield, and that's a good start here for Paris Eternal, but it's going to be a Gravitic Flux to try and swing things back in the Defiant's favor. Harbin has a personal barrier he has to use to keep himself alive as he's dropped to the ground. He's got a Graviton Surge available. He probably doesn't feel like he wants to use it now with the sound barrier in effect, and Nevic's going down. The Defiant have no tanks to speak of. It's just the more mobile but less durable players remaining, and they'll try and stall for a bit, Matt. Beast able to get rid of Ben Best. Now it has to be the Graviton Surge for Harbin. He wishes he probably didn't have to use that, but what choice do you have?
Yeah, he had to, because as soon as they see Agilities come back and they start to lose players, they know that he has a blade most likely. You still had Surefour behind you up top, putting down damage. So you have to use that Graviton Surge, make sure Agilities can't pull the blade out and run crazy on your team and get a defensive hold, and that allows Paris to take that second checkpoint. As Harbin goes to the spawn, he will change now over to Sigma. The Sigma will provide some more off-angle damage here than the Zarya.
What's it like playing Doomfist on this part of the map, though, Matt? This one is way more open.
You're asking me? I would never play Doomfist on this part of the map. Because I am not in the business of feeding my friends' games.
Well, there it is. 5-player EMP. The wide open nature of this part of the map actually helps the Eternal when it comes to Soon's EMP. Spark was there for the cleanup, and he's not really punished for playing out in the open. They win an easy team fight, and now the Eternal get to leverage Sparkle inside this cul-de-sac, which is definitely where Doomfist has much more versatility. and Ben Best wants to try and shut the door in the Defiant's face.
I like them playing close here. Agility's gonna play nice shatter there by Ben Best as they all come out that left-hand door.
Agility still gets a play, but Fielder has the coalescence there just to make sure that the Eternal are kept topped up. That's why they can play so far forward and so aggressive. They have the insurance policy in the form of those support ultimates. Beast goes down once more, and Sparkle has to get out of jail free card in the form of the Meteor Strike should he require it, but he may not. Nevix gets taken down by his own hype spears as they clatter off of the shield of Han Bin. And Sparkle gets back into the fight now. Bob had very little impact on Paris Eternal with over a minute left in the time bank. Gonna be a gravitic flux to keep Shore 4 airborne and then brought back downward. A sickening thud. And there's not really much Agilities could have done there. He got lifted. Han Bin inside a flux from Nevix, who tried to stall things out a little bit. There might actually be something to this now. Fielder has another coalescence though, and that is a very clutch ultimate timing. 51 seconds for Paris as the map is finished.
And it's huge for Paris to just finish this map. This map is so difficult. I mean, they make it look quite easy at times, but I mean, just getting through the second stage and then really this final choke, you can see how long the defending team can just funnel out of the spawn doors and stall it out. Tremendous for Paris to even get a finish, a full complete. This also allows them, if they want, they can play close up on that first door. They have an advantage in terms of having that time bank, finishing the map. They can just start to bleed the clock early.
Now, it's been mentioned many times before. If you haven't heard it yet, you're about to hear it now. This is a very long map, and frankly, even finishing the map is rare. I don't know what the percentage is, to be honest. I'm not going to look up the stats for you right now. You have to take my word for it. I'm not Maven. I don't just make them up.
Well, it's about 27%, I think.
Great, thanks, Matt.
27%. Yeah, Ben will correct me on Twitter, but
yeah.
I'll defend 27%. It sounds about right.
If you have issues with that, you can flame Matt at Brencasts on Twitter.
Yep, yeah, that's my new Twitter at. Yep. See, I like this from Paris. Just play close. Like, they have the advantage in terms of time. Play close with the Doom. You could have even played, like, you have the Sombra in play because you probably want to play Sombra most of the map. I mean, you could have just played, like, something, because let's say, for argument's sake, Toronto sees this, they could switch to Sombra, try and get, like, an early hack and then a pick-off. Like, you could have played, like, Doom Reaper close here and just played it almost like a control map. I like this from Paris.
Keep an eye on Spark using the truck to try and break line of sight. Fielder, though, wasn't quite as lucky. They're trying to stay out of the way of Shore 4 here, and Shore 4 will not be denied. He pushes around, finds 2 kills, and I think Paris realizing now that their forward play may have to be stowed away for another time here. Yeah, losing a couple individuals back up here and use the shield.
It's the fact that both support's dead, a reason that they would have to back up.
Listen, I don't think Sigma needs supports at all. He just has kinetic grasp. Like, I mean, you want to damage him? No, he gets effective health from that, by the way. Don't worry about it. Oh, Agility's taken down long range by Fielder there. He got slurped from downrange.
Fielder's going to have coalescence here.
Dynamite thrown in, clatters off the shield. Shore 4 maybe hoping he detonated it earlier than that.
They didn't get a ton of car progress out of this, though. I mean, Paris will be able to get a fight, like, really quickly here in the streets.
It's actually uncommon that you get a second fight so close to the attacker's spawn. Here's coalescence as well. Nevix just got chunked down pretty hard. This forces Kareem to go for one of his own. It'll have to be both support ultimates in this fight. I'd wager Cruz almost has a sound barrier. There's a disengage here from Paris. Shatter attempt from Ben Best. No dice as he tries to play inside this right-hand room. Shatter attempt from Beast. Neither Reinhardt striking gold. It's hard in double shield, I guess. Hardbin gets a gravitic flux, and the flux isn't what kills Beast. It's the separation from the rest of his team.
And these fights are so good for the Paris Eternal. Even if they lose them, they're dragging them out so long. Toronto's got to invest some ultimates into them. And you have the advantage of the clock in the long game for Paris. Now they hold on to EMP and they hold on to sound barrier here. So if Toronto tries to, what will happen is, like, Toronto could gravitic flux, right? That'll try and force the sound barrier out. Then after barrier, then Agilities can blade. But we'll see how the EMP affects that.
All right, again, Hanbin plays on his own, and that's
also
four-player
smart,
EMP. Great response from Cruz, though. He's able to shelter himself and then get the beat, but the Eternal have one of their own, so they just match support ultimates and fielders close to another Coalescence. Kareev has built one as well. This could be a close fight. FD God goes down, and after all said and done, yes, both Fielder and Kareev have to go for Coalescence. Agility knows that, I mean, Fielder can't fade away while he's in Coalescence, so looking for a blade, but doesn't actually have to shut the Moira down. Instead, he focuses elsewhere, and the Defiant get a fight win, but a lot of clock has been burnt.
And I'll say the Paris Eternal pretty much lose that fight when they invest Sound Barrier in and they push on forward and they don't get a kill. At that moment, Toronto, they have their own Sound Barrier, they have a blade. It's just a matter of time for Toronto to turn the tides, but it's not, they don't have first point yet. This will be a, oh, Nevix actually went for the Gravitic Flux and got hacked.
And brutal soon there, adding to his tally of hacked targets, and now Beast is the one.
And then Nevix dies?
Suspended. Not ideal at all. Yeah, I think he got pressured, and I think it was by the shield. I think it was Bedfast shield, actually, that reflected Type Sphere. AoE damage back at him. Kareev down to Sparkle, and that was a devastating turn of events for the Toronto Defiant, man. Soon, ridiculous. He has, as of right now, 35 enemies hacked and 13 EMP.
Oh, that is a huge hack, because they don't have anything to prevent that coming out of the spawn. That is a huge feed after a huge hack there.
Yeah,
Soon
would have
right
had
up
EMP.
in there, yeah. He was trying to, he wanted the EMP bad.
Bob goes on in, and this is it. The Defiant know they have a key opening right now, and they make good on it. Nice dynamite over the top there by Shore4. Opens the gates for Agilities to get in and snatch up what he has to. Soon, it'll be a brief stall here, or perhaps he, yeah, I would almost, okay. So he opts there just to reveal himself here, but even though he triggers overtime, yeah, it's
still a big advantage for Paris. Although you do lose that first point, you could have potentially had a full hold there in the series. Still, 2 minutes and 20 to get through this phase. Like, it's going to take a while for the cart to even get going through the choke. EMP, you have a few ultimates, then you'll rally out of after that. You're still in a good spot if you're a Paris.
And they have to do it against Sparkle's Doomfist now as well. It's just an extra layer of threat.
Doom will be more effective here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of tight corners, hairpin turns and the like, and everyone's grouped up for an EMP. Bedfest makes good on what was started by Soon there. Lovely shatter into Charge. And that's a couple of ultimates drawn out of them, but hey, Paris are happy. They get to sort of farm up their crucial support ultimates while winning fights like this, and those EMPs for Soon should come fairly easy, Matt, because Soon has so many safe spots now to just shoot at people from medium to long range.
And now Toronto's in the spot where what do you have to do? Do you have to invest some of these ultimates in this choke just to get it going? And then at the end, you still won't have enough ultimates to win it.
Great accretion, but Spark was almost guaranteed to kill every time he drops from that perch there because of how close the walls are. Not this time, no, because Agility's had the Dragon Blade. He doesn't bother going up the coalescing Moira. That wasn't a deflect of the accretion. He was just out of the way. Nice little dodge by Agilities. And the Eternal are actually removed here, so maybe an overinvestment in the prior fight, but nice work from Toronto to preempt them.
Yeah, and Toronto's starting to get rolling now. They may be actually able to take this second checkpoint with some time available for them to make a really good attempt to finish the map. Because they do have Nevix with the Gravitic Flux here. He has to be careful not to get hacked. And it's almost not even on Nevix. He can't do anything when he's up in the sky. His teammates have to figure out where Soon is coming from.
Shore4's having an insane map, by the way. He actually has 25% of his damage comes from Dynamite right now. He is really connecting on it, like over 4k damage. But Sound Barrier here for the Paris Eternals able to send them in. And the Defiant win that last fight, but remember, they lost support ultimates to do so. And not much that could be done there by Agilities. Toronto now, they have one more chance to make this work, and they have struggled to figure out a way
to
deal with... Yeah. Spark will be back fairly soon, though. The Defiant, though, will have 6 to go on with first.
They're going to have an EMP shatter combo again here, Mitch. Like, if the fight just lingers on the cart, all Paris has to do is just kind of let it go to overtime. Toronto, they have to play on the payload. Could see a big EMP shatter combo.
Soon detected. Oh! Accretion just missed him! EMP comes out though, and it was a gigantic shatter from Beast on a Paris Eternal. Great reaction, realizing that Sombra was about to cause some serious problems. Toronto, you couldn't be under more pressure than that, and they come up with the right answer. That is so impressive. Fantastic job by Beast to bail them out of what would have been a very dangerous situation.
It almost seemed like Soon, as soon as he got detected, he kind of panicked a little bit. And he decided to use that EMP when he may not have had to at that exact moment in time. He could have probably waited a little bit, but like you mentioned, great shatter from Beast. They get the follow-up. A minute and 15 now to complete the map.
Beast actually outstripping Ben Best for Earthshatter stuns right now. 8-7. And here's the Dragon Blade again from Agilities. Not much to be said from that one, unfortunately. He'll get Ben Best, and there it is. The follow-up's good. And of course, Beast there with a double fire strike kill is good. But the backline for the Eternal still alive. Can they keep Sparkle up and use him to stave off the Defiant? Yes, Shorefall goes down. Eftingod actually takes responsibility for that one alongside Fielder. And this will just make it a little bit harder for the Defiant to blaze through this part of the map.
Yeah, and Paris can give up a little bit of space here because they have both support ult and they have this Gravitic Flux. And Sparkle also building up towards his blade so fast.
He's hacked! He's hacked!
Nothing he can do.
He was so far forward and he had nowhere to go. He didn't have a Sigma Shield close enough to protect him there. But Soon has gone down, so somehow Shortfall's found another kill. 21 final blows, 10 deaths, by the way. Absolutely astonishing from him. I mean, he is actually headed towards deadlift territory. But Sparkle and Soon both have key ultimates here. This could be shut down in this next fight if the Defiant aren't careful. They are not favored in this fight. We need a big sound barrier from Cruz here.
It could get negated, though, by this EMP if it comes on through.
Damage is already down. Here's the sound barrier from both sides, but the damage is already done. Ben Best knocked up. Oh, the 180 shatter. What a god. Knocked up in the air as he tried to go for the Earth Shatter, and he still managed to make it work. Shorefall loses Bob. And the Toronto Defiant now are in deep trouble. Coalescence here from Kareev at long range, and here comes the Wrecking Ball and Beast, but they cannot touch. And that has definitely been the story for Toronto for most of this series. Close, they get to hang, they stay in the same skill bracket as the Eternal, but they're less efficient. They lose a lot of time moving through these maps, especially here on Havana, and ultimately they pull up short.
Yeah, I think they just didn't have enough time towards the end of this map to really give themselves a good chance to complete. Like when a team completes on Havana, especially with 50 seconds in the time bank, you know, you need almost like 3 minutes to get that. Considering how tough it is, and fights go 50-50 all the way to the end. So when they get there with like 2:20 on the clock, they are in such a tough position already. Paris, they know that. They have, even if Paris loses that fight, Mitch, they still have the choke and the spawn advantage to work with towards the end. It's such an uphill battle for Toronto to climb. They never really gave themselves a great chance to win Havana there at the end. But still, this is, although we've seen a ton of 3-0s this weekend, I would say this is one of the closer ones. In terms of, like, I think Toronto, if they play like this against some of the other teams in the league that we've seen this weekend, they probably get a win. I think Paris is just that much better.
Yeah, I actually think it's just a matter of efficiency and economy from these two teams. You can quite clearly see that when Toronto win a fight, it's a complete blowout. It's just that they had more clock bled from them. I actually think the Doomfist was a big part of what caused them to lose so much time, because they're diverting so many resources to dealing with this Doomfist. They're not able just to charge straight through. I think it's time to discuss our player of the match presented by Xfinity, someone who continues to impress me and has been part of this infusion of vigor into the Paris Eternal from Element Mystic. That's right, Hanbin is your player of the match today. And my God, what an impressive individual. It's Wrecking Ball in map 1. We even saw some Zarya. And then, of course, the Sigma continues to be astonishing. I mean, racking up sort of top final blows on Temple of Anubis. There's nothing this guy can't do, and he continues to get better and better.
He was the biggest difference maker for me today. When you looked at the damage dealers, Sparkle had his moments, Soon did as well on like the Ash and the Sombra, but Agilities and Surefour were good. Like you mentioned, Surefour was really, popping off at on the Ash there towards the end of Havana.
I also think Beast had a good series as well.
But Hanbin on the Sigma and then on the Zarya a little bit, it was the biggest difference throughout the game today. I think the Gravitic Fluxes were good, the Accretions, being able to land some stunts on Agilities at key times. He was the biggest difference in terms of lineup for lineup in this series today.
And look, there are plenty of examples where teams get mixed up, and perhaps the diversity of language especially is increased and they struggle, but I'm really impressed by this roster right now. I actually spoke to, I want to say it was Soon. I said, listen, like, obviously you've had to play on teams, with English-speaking players. You've played on some teams with, Swedish-speaking players, vice versa. Now obviously you've been put on a roster. You've had a large number of players come from South Korea. There's definitely a language barrier. And he sort of felt that the mindset and the approach to the game was really similar between sort of what he considered to be the French mindset, which I know is a generalization, but that's in Soon's experience, and the Korean one. It felt like they really saw eye to eye in a lot of these issues, and there was an understanding that was there from the beginning for them. This roster looks like a well-oiled machine. I'm incredibly impressed, and I think there are players who looked really average last season and before, and prior, who now look excellent, who now look like they really deserve a spot on this top roster.
Think about the preseason expectations for this team. Everybody thought, the way that this roster was going to gel and stuff was going to be a little bit messy, and that they weren't going to be able to really reach their potential. And I think they've kind of surpassed where anyone thought they could possibly go. Even almost like best case scenario, you weren't talking about them beating a San Francisco Shock and a Philly Fusion and winning a tournament. So I think there's a ton of credit to be given to the organization for Paris, coaching staff, the players, and just how well they put this together in a short amount of time.
Sure, 4 tweets. At least it was fast. I mean, that is true. I mean, first of all, he's got some really supportive fans in that thread who no one's flaming him. It's kind of crazy. But secondly, yeah, okay, it's a 3-0. All right, it was moderately quick, but I actually think this is much more to do with the winning team just being really well drilled on their fundamentals right now. Like, we turn around next week, right? Same hero pool. I think we could see a different Toronto.
So yeah, some of the games we've had where teams like that they weren't really that close. Where Toronto they played pretty good. I think it's just Paris has a really good understanding of how to play this. Different looks, whether it be Genji or Doomfist, some Sombra in the mix. And they are just a really tough opponent. I think Paris could have beat anybody this week playing the way they did.
And now, as we continue to move on, we have a chance to hear from the bearer of the most chiseled jawline in the Overwatch League. We'll hear from Ben Best with Zoe.
Couldn't have said it any better, Mitch. Thank you so much, Mitch and Matt. Ben Best, thank you so much for joining, and congrats.
Hello, thank you.
Now, let's talk about what we just got to watch from your team. We're seeing a lot of different looks, a lot of what looks like comfort picks. How much agency do you have as a player at the Paris Eternal when it comes to what kind of comps we're seeing on the server?
I don't know. I think we can play all the different meta, and that's when Sparkle is now available to play. So we are comfortable in every meta right now, and we try our best to,
Is it coming more from the coaches when it comes to what you're picking, or
I think
are you as a player deciding that?
I think it's everyone. I think we are. Last year we weren't on the same page, I would say, but this year I think we are on the same page, and we prove it during the match.
It absolutely looks like you're on the same page. It looks as cohesive as ever and very dominant. Now, how has the team dynamic or even the strategic approach changed ever since Sparkle joined, or rather became eligible?
I think it's more confidence, I would say. Like we gain more confidence match after match, and we need to keep it up, because even if we win the Summer Showdown, I think we need to keep it up and keep motivated.
Right, not resting on the laurels. That's a good approach. Now, as you are one of the dominant teams right now, do you think there's any merit, if you're already on the top, to look at more innovative or creative strats? Or do you rather just focus on the current meta and those kind of strats?
Yeah, just focus on current meta, yeah.
Okay, so not straying too far out of the box, I see. Well, Ben Best, that's it already. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you on and see your face. Now we're heading into a very quick break, and then afterwards we're back with the next game. It's going to be the Atlanta Reign taking on the Florida Mayhem.